I've found this happening with me, is that if I've got the phone sitting there and I'm typing away and I look at the phone, I'll reach for it and check the email. So the technology, I think, is affecting us all. I know that my attention span isn't what it used to be because there's so many other things I can be doing.
I was thinking of this recently. Some entrepreneur guy, and I couldn't do this because I'm really rooted, but he was like, you should move every 2 years, whatever it was.
Interesting.
But if you think about what he's saying, every time 2 years you move into a new city.
Right.
So everything, when you've been to a new city for the first time or you go on vacation,
Right.
You're at your senses.
I see it.
I found myself, before the heart surgery, you're doing well here, yeah? But I was like stagnant.
Right.
And I'm not like that. You're way ahead of me in books, but I've written a few self-defense books, a children's book, which I'm super proud of. But I didn't want to write any books.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do any podcasts.
Yeah.
You're in the monotony of and I love my business. I love being here.
Right.
But status quo.
Right.
And honestly, the heart surgery got me out of that.
Mother Nature got you rolling again.
100%.
That's fantastic.
And if we can go metaphysical, but I was I planned that when I was a spirit, right? to reset me. But have you experienced that? Because I know writing sometimes too. Also for me, and this is probably a false belief, but especially if I'm writing even a kid's book, if I'm writing a martial arts book, it's easy to make a video.
Right.
Or make an animated video.
Yeah.
Versus write. And for me, most people aren't going to read a book anymore, but I'll watch that TV show.
Exactly.
I'm saying, so have you, but in life, have you been stagnant? And what did you do to overcome it?
Very much so. And of course, my opinion on that is it's important to also recognize that there's the time when you think you're stagnant and actually you're resting.
Okay.
And I think that's something that some of us, particularly I'm a type A, I'm always doing something. And yet there are times when it's I am just grinding the gears here. I am not getting anywhere with this, or I'm not enjoying it. There are times when it's no, you're just a little burned out. So it's okay to coast every now and then. And back when I was this hard charging airborne infantry lieutenant, I was no, that's crazy. We don't do that. And I learned over time that it's important to recognize when it's a time to be dormant and to wait, and that's when then the spring comes and something will come along. But you're right. How do you jumpstart yourself? And I recently did something like that in that I finished, what do you got here? It's the two books at the top here. Those are the most recent books I wrote. And it's just futuristic fiction. So you've got the one, A Pause in the Perpetual Rotation, is about the United States when the robots do all the work and the AIs make most of the decisions. What's our life going to be like? And as part of that, there was this self-improvement book, The Unused Path, that I wrote. That's very brief little lessons, but it's in this book. It's an underground philosophy in this book.
Okay. And
the government doesn't like it and wants to stamp it out. So I really threw myself into that and had a great time writing those. And then I kind of went dormant. I was writing a lot of short stories. And then recently I said, okay, time to get back into books. I have this horror series, 2 horror books. I stopped writing those a while back. I could continue that. I reread them both and liked them. And the third one just didn't come. And I said, man, I thought I'd jumpstart myself here. And so I just stepped back, and you and I were talking about this before the podcast started. I was looking at the short stories. I had one from years ago that I wrote about a talent agency in California, and they handle actors. And I looked at that and I said, what could I do with that? That one's actually kind of a nice story, but if you take it just as an adaptation of that and make it just a little darker, it's actually not a bad movie, and it lends itself to a movie, and it was a much bigger thing than a short story. And so I'm writing that now. The screenplay is done. I've written a couple of screenplays. That has jump-started me. It's so moving into a different medium. I thought it was write another book or continue writing short stories, when it was no, go into a screenplay. Because you and I were talking about you got a certain kind of writing when you're writing a novel. Then you got a certain kind of writing when you're writing a short story. Because I love short stories because they're the discipline. You've got 6,000 words and that's it. Get your point across.
Challenge. It's like getting your uniform on in a minute.
Exactly, like getting the uniform on in a minute. But then, of course, a screenplay is such a different thing because it's visual and it's the dialogue. So it's like, it's gonna be the action and the discussion. And you've gotta have everything in there. It's gotta have the drama, I've gotta have the emotion, I've gotta build the characters, I've gotta reveal who these people are, all within this plot. And it's like you said earlier about how I'd rather see the movie. I love movies, and I understand perfectly that people would rather see the movie, but it's like, I've got the images and I've got the words, and that's it. And so I think that's one of the things that jumpstarted me, was doing it a little differently. So
A new challenge.
Yeah, sometimes a new challenge, or doing something a little different.
I think a lot of times, like even with a podcast, it made me a better listener.
Yes.
Like, one of the best things I ever did was when I was like, I think 19 or 20, I wrote like my first martial arts book about the system we were doing.
Very good.
Like a training manual or whatever.
Yeah.
But the big thing, and I remember doing it, we had like, I don't even know, we probably had 5,000 pictures back then. So that's when like you had like the digital camera.
Oh,
with the
yes.
thing, and I put it in Word.
Oh.
Yeah, Word, at some point Word started Xing out the pictures because they had no memory.
Oh my.
Stuff you didn't know in like 2003.
Right.
And pictures were this big, you couldn't really see the pictures.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to like organize my thoughts.
Right.
And I learned that from that. It made me a much better martial artist because I had already spent time by myself internalizing like, how do you teach this?
Right.
Right? But I think when you do different things, it teaches you different lessons.
Oh, absolutely.
Business, it becomes like, okay, like, so we first start teaching fitness classes. Then we start doing nutrition stuff.
Yeah.
Then we start doing more accountability. And like, for instance, like, what do we do with accountability? Well, we're in the accountability business. I'm really not in the fitness business.
Yeah.
Like, I got to make sure that you come to class.
Right.
You're having a good time when you come in class. We have touch points when you're outside of class because nobody quits inside the studio unless something bad happens.
Well, yeah.
You quit on the couch.
Of course. Because I don't want it.
Right?
I don't want it. I don't feel like it.
Yeah. Like, then it becomes, okay, we do the check-ins now.
Yeah.
Like, well, all right, so like, what am I saying to the women like every 14 days? Like, I'm looking at your stats and like, when it's a good weigh-in, I don't have to say much.
Yeah, exactly.
But like when it's
Yeah.
like, and now I'm noticing too, because our in-body scale gives you the fat percentage, the pounds, stuff like that,
Very
of
cool.
muscle.
Yeah.
I can give you feedback based on data,
Right.
like not on feelings. Well, when the women go from like in the red to the green, which means good,
Yeah.
Your leeway is less now.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Yeah.
you're more fit.
Exactly.
So now it's like, okay, we have to be like tighter.
Right.
But now it becomes like, okay, like how do I ask this question in a way that's going to make you make the decision? Okay, Vin, so like, are you totally cool with the way we're with the progress now? And you want to just keep, maybe having a couple slices of pizza a week?
Yeah.
Or do you want to get totally fast results and stop restricting it? Like, which one do you want to do? Because we can do both,
Right.
but like you have to choose the path.
That's
But you can't you can't have both.
right.
How fast you want to do this?
And that's just one of those things. It's like in business, the opportunity cost is what they call it. It's that, okay, we've got this amount of money and we can, like the big corporations, we can buy back some stocks and that has its advantages. Or we can repair our equipment and some of the equipment doesn't really need to be repaired. So it's like, we can't do both. So the opportunity cost is this dollar, where does it go? And what do I have to give up when I decide to put it over there?
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing you're talking about. What struck me at the beginning, what you were just talking about was how it's almost transactional when it's like it's two people. You're talking about your students, about what they need to be doing, but what you need to be doing for them. That's
As a coach.
Exactly. It's accountability. It's that you owe them something
Mhm.
here. It's that you owe them to be prepared. You owe them to know what you're doing, to recognize that everybody's different and each case is going to have its own special kind of considerations, but also to be there and to put things the way they need to be put. Because that was one of the other interesting things about being a platoon leader in the Army at the age of 23 is that you realize you've got people who just need no supervision at all for the most part. And then you get people that you really need a lot of supervision, and then you get the ones in between. And it's like different strokes for different folks here. And that's why it was really not a great idea to be the yell, holler, stamp your feet guy all the time, because the folks who don't need that are just tuning you out.
Yes.
And the ones who are the troublemakers, well, they've heard it all before. They're not really hearing you. It's like, what's that doing to the people in the middle who are doing a good job and they want to do a good job? And the lieutenant's mad about what we're doing here. I thought we were doing a good job. So it's important to go case by case, and as I'm sure you know your students so well.
Yeah, and even though you're talking employees, like when I went into the hospital, it was I just thought I had chest pain. I thought it was an asthma attack at first, but I ended up being out in the hospital for 19 days. So I was out for about maybe 3 weeks, a little bit more.
Yeah,
my staff took over.
perfect.
Right now, normally I've gone on vacation before. It's planned.
Yeah.
Hey, Vinny's covering this class.
Yeah.
It was like, hey Beth, like I'm gonna be in the hospital.
Yeah.
Hey Josh, I'm gonna be in the hospital.
Yeah.
Hey Ryan, I'm in the hospital. Can you guys, boom. And then the studio actually grew. We signed up people, classes went
Fantastic.
well. I actually wasn't gonna tell many people, but I'm always here.
Yeah.
So once I wasn't here for a couple of days, people are gonna be like, where's Mark?
Right,
And so then once that got out, then I had to kind of tell everybody.
right.
But it's only because I have relations with them.
Yeah.
Where, it is a caring relationship.
Of course.
I do want them to succeed.
Yeah.
Do I have to be the boss? And sometimes can I be short because I'm running back in there to make a phone call?
Yeah.
Or I have a marketing thing
Right.
I'm doing?
Yeah.
Or I have these ideas. Like Josh came in the other day. Now he's one of my closest friends. And he's a phys ed teacher in Cranston. And he's working all day.
Yeah.
He comes in, I'm like, Josh, we got this. And he's like, can you give me a second? I go, yeah, no, I'm just emptying my brain, right? Because ADHD can be a superpower in business
Right.
if you're able to manage it,
Yeah.
right? Which I do pretty well with a lot. But we're friends.
Yeah, it's like, can you give me a second here?
And I was like, oh, I thought you were always ready. Come on, let's go. But I know, right?
Exactly.
I know, but I think I chat GPT'd it here. I had 2 more questions for you, but I chat GPT'd it here, and I was like, how many people in America own businesses? And it was like 10%,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Like-
it's huge. It's a huge commitment. And oddly enough, in one of my murder mysteries, the guy had a small business, and the whole premise is that it went bankrupt. It wasn't his fault, and that he ended up eating the debt. He didn't get to erase the debt, and so he's walking around with this load on his shoulders, and that's what prompts him to move to another part of the country and become essentially a private investigator, even though he's in the lower ranks of that. He's like a background checker. But so I had to go and look into this, again, Complete Idiot's Guide into small business and looking at the Small Business Administration and what they can do for you and things I would never have thought about, like, for example, the break-even point. It's like every single month, you've got certain fixed costs here, and whether you have any business at all or none, you still have to meet that budget. You have to meet that payroll. You have to keep the lights on, the electricity, maintenance of this place to make sure that it's clean and hygienic. There's all sorts of things that go into this that every month you've got to be able to cover that cost no matter what the business is doing.
Right.
And that's elementary stuff too. So my hat's off to people who run their own small businesses.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's definitely a challenge. I find one of the things that helps me out a lot too is talking to other friends who have businesses, tattoo shop, physical therapy places, because we all go through it.
Right.
And it can be an emotional roller coaster.
Oh,
So a lot of times for me personally, like I will sacrifice profit to give them a great experience.
of course.
And nobody sees that.
Right.
Well, they see it, but they don't see like the ink on the paper.
Right.
How much we spent on, this stuff. But that's just the way I run stuff. We have
Right.
actually, for like a martial arts, we have 250 5-star reviews or 249 5-star reviews and 1 4-star review,
There you go.
right? Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna have words with the person who gave me 4 stars.
Yeah.
But like that's on purpose.
Yeah.
My last name is on the business.
Right.
So if my business sucks, my reputation sucks. And we want to have that safe space for women. And we do families too.
Yeah.
And I tell people when I sign them up, I'm like, listen, we have like 6 guys in the program. 5 of them are husbands and the
Yeah.
one's not creepy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's
Right.
how we run the studio.
Right. Because you're meeting their needs. This is what they are looking for.
Yeah, and-
coming here.
And honestly, like I know we're guys, but like if I'm a woman 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, are there safe places that they can go and, be with other women their age?
Yeah. Why shouldn't they have that place? That's what you're providing here.
Right. And
Exactly.
so you know, and a lot of women who are, you know, women say it to me all the time, or like they don't want to be at a big box gym, so it's like you're, you know, with other women who are 18 or 19, or
Yeah.
you know, they want to be people that, just like I right now, I hang out with everybody, but I'd actually rather hang out with people who are older than me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To learn. That's how I've
Yeah.
been.
But just from a guy perspective, the first time I went to actually lift weights, so I go into the gym and there's these other guys there, and these are real weightlifters. They've got the big curling. They're doing the big weights. And I said, "Oh, I'm pretty strong. I must be able to do that." And I picked up some weights that I just shouldn't have been playing with, and I felt like an idiot. But then I went down the weights until I had really not big weights, but I could do 10 reps with them, you know, correctly. You know, it's so important to do the exercise correctly. But I know it's like comparing yourself to the other people in the
100%.
gym and feeling uncomfortable. Like I was like, man, these guys are lifting these huge weights, and I'm over here with my little weights. But it's all about your workout and what could my body handle.
And for a lot of women, which is our, you know, usually our age range, like they've had kids.
Yeah.
Or they're going through menopause or postmenopause, right? So like their body's changing. So like,
Stages of life, you know? Yeah.
when, you know, one of the clients who was great to me, she's like, when I was 20, like I could eat anything.
Yeah.
I go, that was before 3 kids. That was before like your hormones changed.
Yeah.
What you're doing now is amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but like I was telling them today too, and I was teaching, I was like, I looked at a picture of myself 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was pretty shredded, but when I took the picture, I was like, oh, I could have done better. Now I'm like, man, like I should have.
Look at how I looked back then.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember there's another picture, you know, after training, there was like our shirts were off, I was holding the thing. When I took the picture, I was like, my chest is too small. And I came up on my computer, I was like, damn, my chest was big. But like, it's human nature,
Yeah.
right? You know, especially if you are of the growth mindset.
Right.
I think one of the things that's hardest for me is like, I always want to grow.
Yeah.
Probably because I didn't grow from 5'4" and higher,
Yeah.
but I always want to grow.
Same
Like,
here.
I always want to grow,
Yeah.
but when you're not growing, you know, one of the business consultant groups I'm in, it's like you grow or die.
Right.
You know, so that
Yeah.
growth phase.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, so sometimes that can be bad. That's the thing that gets us up in the morning. That's the thing that makes me write the books. That made you take the big chance to go ahead and sign your name on the lease here and put everything together here and put your name on the building.
Mm-hmm.
And said that you wanted to do more and do this thing. You picked it, and this is what you want to do. And as opposed to, let's say, oh, I'm kind of worried about doing this. Maybe I shouldn't. And,
Well, it took me a long time to come up. Well,
yeah.
we had to find a place that was big enough
Yeah.
parking, and in Cranston.
Yeah.
Like this became, you know, and we looked, and we didn't want to make a lateral move
Right.
where like I'm just moving to move.
Yeah, that's
You know, because we spent about that over 60,000 moving in.
I believe it.
But you bet on yourself,
Exactly.
and you're giving them a great experience. But
Yeah.
Anything else about your book? So we cover everything.
The only thing I would say is that I have a website. It's you know, if you just go Google Vincent H. O'Neill, 1 L on O'Neill, I'll pop up because I'm all over Google. But it's www.vincenthoneill.com. So it's ONEIL. So vincenthoneill.com. I've got the links to all the books, the mysteries, the horror, this. I've got a couple of short story links there that go right out to the ones that are free. And I've also got one page that's about writing. So it's all the writing presentations I've done at different conferences. And those are the PowerPoint presentations. So those are all available as well out on SlideShare. So I've got a lot of good stuff on the website. I encourage people to go there.
Amazon.
Yes. Now, none of my books are in the stores right now, so you'll get them through Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Okay. HarperCollins is still selling the Sim War series. That's a military science fiction series, so you can also get those through HarperCollins. And one, just to call it out, is that I went with the name Henry Vincent O'Neill for the sci-fi just to differentiate it from the mysteries.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm Vincent H. O'Neill, but I went with Henry V. O'Neill because my name is Vincent Henry O'Neill. I'm named after my grandfather's brother who actually died in the influenza pandemic of 1918. So I was thinking about him during COVID, and his name was Henry Vincent O'Neill. So my mother wanted to name me after him, but she switched the two names around.
Okay, all right.
So that's kind of a tribute to him as Henry B. O'Neill. So that's why I've got two different names on the books.
I didn't even notice, but
Yeah.
yeah. So for you, last message. So what's your message to anybody but young people who are struggling with their own purpose
Yeah.
or struggling with discipline today? Because in today's society, it's not a comfort,
No.
which I'm cool with.
Yeah.
But like, I was telling somebody like, if I could play video games like before work, I wouldn't want to go to work.
Right.
Like I don't blame these kids.
No, not at all.
You know what
I'm
I'm
like
saying?
that.
Like
human nature.
But like if someone's struggling with their purpose in life or
Right.
discipline, like what would you tell them? You're their platoon leader.
Yeah, I'll be your platoon leader here. All I'll say is that I found this happening with me, is that if I've got the phone sitting there and I'm typing away and I look at the phone, I'll reach for it and check the email. And it's like the technology, I think, is affecting us all. I know that my attention span isn't what it used to be because there's so many other things I could be doing. So there's nothing really wrong with that. So I guess that's the biggest thing I would say, is that there's nothing wrong with it. I hate to sound like a shill, but this is why I wrote this one, is the unused path, is because it's basically all sorts of skills for problem solving, time management, and living an authentic life, finding out just what is it that you want to do, what do you view this world as being, and what is your role in it. So that would be, I hate to say it was like, oh, buy my book, but it's honestly, that's why I wrote the thing, because I had so many people I've met over the years, from my father and mother to those first sergeants in the Army, the people I've worked with, people like yourself, because we shoot the breeze about everything in the gym, about philosophy, about life.
Politics, which we didn't bring up.
Yes, we avoided politics here. And so I wanted to put a lot of those messages in there in the unused path. But I just want to come back to one thing you had mentioned about how you as a small business owner talk to other small business owners. It's like, if you're thinking about doing something, so I'm picking my college, or I'm thinking about buying a car or buying a house or something like that, is that we're surrounded by people who've already done it. And it's fine to go online and get advice from there. There's a lot of good information out there. But I like the idea of talking to the people like you've done, talking to people who run a small business, and watch out for this. This is something I didn't see coming. Like when you're gonna go and buy the house, and you can talk to the people, the ones who owned a couple of houses at different times, they're older, and they've had the whole experience. And then you've got the folks who just recently got one, so now you've got very up-to-date information. That's one of the things I cover in this, is about getting good information. And I'm a big fan of talking to people who are doing what you're contemplating or have done it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important.
Right, and that's actually great advice. That's one of the things, like you want to learn from somebody who's already been where you want to be.
Exactly.
Who's already been where you want to go.
Exactly. No, you said it right.
Did I say it the first time?
You got it right.
So like that's the thing. Right? So, or is an expert in it.
Right. Or
Right. So like, I could be a physical therapist. I didn't have knee surgery, but I've been trained how to get you from A to B.
Exactly.
Exactly. Or in the martial arts, I went from A to Z.
Exactly.
I can take you there.
Exactly.
So, but this was great.
It's been great. I've really enjoyed this. It's been great fun as usual. We have great conversations at the gym, and that's what this felt like.
But we got to do this again, because I thought you were great.
Yeah, I had a great time.
All right, good. Now I'm going to take a picture of that so we can post it.
All right.
And then we'll take a picture of us.
Sir, thank you
that
so
was
much.
Great.